Uncle Joe Benson here, 100.3 The Sound, speaking with a comedy legend. Paul Rodriguez is with us. Welcome.
Thank you very much. The legend simply will apply to anyone who reaches my age.
Here I am.
There you are. We are.
First time I worked with you in the early 80s.
Yes.
And you were just coming up. You brought all kinds of things to comedy and to television that hadn't been around.
Well, yeah, and some of those things didn't stick and some of the things did. It was a learning process. I look back, it's amazing how quickly time goes by. But I look back, some things I'm proud of and some things I don't remember. I was totally sedated.
Yes.
But it was the time. It was back in the days when these substances were glamorized. And I remember my first picture, a D.C. cab. Later on, the mayor of that city of Washington, D.C. was arrested for using those substances. But at the time, I clearly remember being in a trailer, and all I saw was a African American man doing these lines. That was the thing to do. Later on, when that happened, I told a friend of mine. I said, I partied with that dude. If I'd known he was the mayor, I would have been less paranoid.
You're playing Flappers the 30th and 31st of this month.
Yes.
Nice little club. Get up on stage. Now, do you work out new material doing this kind of thing, or what are you rolling in with?
Well, basically, I used to prepare a lot, and when you over-prepare, you lose what I believe comedy really is, the spontaneity.
Yep.
And, things in our world are going so fast that it's useless to prepare because by tomorrow or an hour from now, that will be old news, so you have to just... I use it, I don't like to say it because people say, well, what is he going to experiment on us? But, it's a stream of consciousness. You got to talk about that.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I've seen you on stage several times. The last time was one of the Laugh Factories. And you're up there and you vibe out what the crowd is and then you move things around. To me, that's the art.
Well, there's only three things you can know about an audience by looking at them, more or less their age, more or less their ethnicity, and more or less their sex, And with these three things, you put into your computer, and then you try to find topics that will reach them, that you'll talk, that they will communicate with you. Sometimes it's not successful, You have your nights where nothing you say connects. But on the other hand, it has to be interesting for you, too, It has to be new for you. I know a lot of very good comedians who are road memorization comedians who have a certain set of material. It's hilarious, the first time. The second time you hear it, comedy doesn't have the life shelf of let's say, a music, a song. You hear it more. The more you hear it, the more you'll like it, Well, comedy, I assure you that the third time you hear a joke, you'll be wondering why it was funny to you in the first place. So you have to keep it going there. And for me, I have to entertain myself. If I'm having a good time, then the audience is having a good time. Sometimes they aren't, and you just gotta, I've seen the best I saw Richard Pryor at the Comedy Store go in the tank to an audience, and if it could happen to him, it could happen to anybody.
That's one thing about comedy that we've brought up several times here on The Sound and the Laughter at 45 After. Musicians have a band behind you. If something goes wrong, the band is going to cover. Yeah, you got to
blame it on the drummer.
You're up there by yourself, though, riffing along. Now, you've influenced generations, I'll say, of comedians, especially some Hispanic ones. Gabriel Iglesias comes to mind.
Sure.
Do you take that as an honor? Do you correct him on any of his material?
Oh, no, I never have. I never corrected even the amateur night guys, I think you see talent, You see talent, and the best thing you can do is just, I love talent anyways, Gabriel Iglesias is a particular case because he and I had the same teacher in college. When I left college to go to school, she called me one time, and she said, I had done the commencement speech for Long Beach College, and she said, there's another guy in my class who's hilarious. You got to meet him. And I went over there, and I met this Gabriel Iglesias kid, and he was trying to, he's doing his sounds and everything like that, and I said, you don't have to audition, man. If it's in your heart to do this, I will do whatever I can. And I'm glad I treated him well, because he and I become good friends. And you saw the talent. It was there, George Lopez, Mencia, all these guys, they used to travel with me. They used to open with me. But even then, I knew that I never considered myself the alpha and omega of Latino comedy. I figured that there'd be these cats who'll come along and put me in a place. But at the time, I guess I was I was someone out there that they could measure themselves. They could say, I'm better than this guy. I'm not as good as this guy. You knew where it was. When I came along, it was Freddie Prinze, my particular hero, had passed on, and there was a void there. You can't have a void with as numerous as we are in the city. It's something that we still have to get across to let's say television, for example, which is and movies, which is really not living in the same city. I think.
I feel proud, though, every time someone refers to you and how an influence you are on them. And Gabriel especially holds you in very high esteem. Said, "Oh yeah, I knew him.
Yeah, he's
I've known him for a long time."
Yeah, he's somebody that there was a place in a niche. He was there at the right time, and that's really what happens. My case is different because I was, no matter how bad I was, I was there. So they trudged me out on stage, but. I'm proud of a lot of things that I did, and then you look back at other things, you say, well, I should have done this, I should have done that, but I've got no regrets. This has beat working by a long shot. Yeah.
That's again January 30th and 31st. You're playing Flappers in Burbank. I also need to mention here that you have a family member who's done quite well and not in the comedy field.
Yeah.
Your son?
My son, Paul. That's what the court says. I took the DNA test, and now he's successful. I'll claim him. I think. Children really do represent where they come from. They're a product of their environment, And I'm very proud of my kid. I was in his life. I am in his life. I'll stay in his life, And I think that if you really want to look at the whole picture of our society, the root of every problem we have is the fact that there are young men out there growing up with their own rules.
Yep.
And I grew up in a very, very rough place. I grew up in Compton, I'm both proud to tell you that I'm from Compton. This is where my father settled, and I'm also ashamed that it has not changed. It's gotten worse. I grew up in the very thick of gangland. And it's something that has been exported to other cities. And I was right there at the very beginning of some of the most vicious gangs there. And later on in my career, I did a special live from San Quentin. It was like a homecoming, like a reunion. It was sad, but I've hoped that I've tried to be some sort of example to let them know that it is possible. The rose can grow in Harlem. I don't think it's inevitable that a child who grows up surrounded by violence should grow up to be violent himself. There is a way out.
Yep.
And
it's great to have you as a voice and as a role model after all the things you've gone through.
I was asked to be a few years back, I was asked to be the Grand Marshal of the Christmas parade, and I remember seeing the Christmas parade as a youngster. That went down El Segundo, and Willowbrook in that area, and I remember watching it cautiously because something was going to go down, man. There's no way that a white dude with a bunch of gives is going to get through our street, But I was asked, and I remember looking at the faces when we moved in to Compton. Latinos were an oddity. We weren't there. I have pictures of me in Ralph Bunche school being the whitest. I was the white guy in that school. And there's a picture of me I treasure of the football team and me. I'm this little white face out there. I went out thinking it was football, soccer, and I remember being baffled by when this oblong ball and then they were running with it. And I remember telling my mom, say, Ma, this is a real poor school. I mean, their balls aren't even round. What did you bring me here for? And I've made great friends. I went to school with some guys that went all the way to the big leagues. I was a teammate, a classmate of Kenny Landreau of the Dodgers, and people that made it all the way to the top. I've often said that my high school had 4 world-class athletes and one clown. It was.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be in here. As I mentioned, comedy is a dangerous game because you're by yourself on stage. It's also because you deal with truth. and how much of truth and emotional things you can roll out.
It's the only thing that's funny, really, and people say, well, where do you get your material? And I said, it's, open the door, look outside. It's there. It's all over you, around there. You just have to have an interesting way of wording it, and so far it's not failed me. But, I just turned 60 yesterday, so Alzheimer's is not
Happy
far
birthday.
behind.
I can't remember. Thank you, Paul.
My pleasure.